Hello everyone, my name is Derek. I'm a police officer with the City of Ramsey. I'm currently assigned to our investigations division, which I just started back in January. I just wanted to thank you all for listening to this special program on QCTV. Today I want to talk about something that we're seeing increased use in crime, is cryptocurrency. So this has been a topic I've enjoyed a lot since coming back to investigations, something I care deeply about because it's affecting so many of our residents, not just in the City of Ramsey, but Anoka County, the state of Minnesota, and the United States in general. So we'll start out. I think a lot of us have heard over the years this word of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, and a lot of us don't know what it is. All I want you to think of when you hear that word is digital cash. It's just digital cash that moves on the internet with no safeguards from banks. There's usually no oversight that you see. It's just from peer to peer, meaning I'm just going to send it to the receiving party. No one else is going to be involved in the process. So we hear terms like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether. Those are all just various types of cryptocurrency. The biggest one obviously in the news is Bitcoin. And what do we use cryptocurrency for? Oftentimes you will see Bitcoin specifically used in investments as a hedge of value like gold because it's a finite amount. Other types of cryptocurrency include payments like Tether. That's just a cryptocurrency that is tied directly to the US dollar. I think we'll see that more and more in the upcoming years for payments. It's faster, you can send it across the world way quicker with smaller fees associated with it. All of these cryptocurrencies generally utilize a technology called blockchain. All blockchain is a ledger that shows all transactions that have ever happened. Your name will not be associated with it. It just shows a wallet address. It depends on how long that is, depending on the type of currency you're using, but it'll show your wallet address, a hash, which would just mark the transaction itself, and then the receiving party address, and that'll be marked by the amount of currency you send and the US dollar representative value. Inherently, there are some risks with cryptocurrency. I think we've been hearing that especially more and more recently in the news. There's scams. That's the big thing we're seeing in law enforcement. You have people impersonating celebrities in romance scams oftentimes, or investment ploys. Phishing scams and fake giveaways too will pop up in your emails. These are called pig butchering scams. They're often associated with romance scams and financial scams. All that means is, think of the farmer that's raising a pig. He's not going to get rid of his pig when it's small, right? He's going to fatten the pig up and then slaughter it. So these suspects will come to the victim and just basically reach out all friendly, eventually developing a relationship with them. And by that point, they'll get the person to invest money maybe, or involved romantically somehow over the internet. At that point, they'll just continue to extract money from them over time before they're in for thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars with no way to get the money back. The other thing we see with a lot of cryptocurrencies, and this ties to ones that aren't associated with like the US dollar, for example, like Tether. But Bitcoin, Ethereum, those can often have big price fluctuations, so there's a lot of volatility. You can see Bitcoin, for example, one day is $116,000 and maybe drop to $100,000. That is a big swing currently, but it has settled down a little bit. One of the other huge things we see with the cryptocurrency is there's no irreversibility because of those banks aren't there, right? They're not there to reverse a transaction or refund you. Once you send a transaction to another wallet, it's gone. There's nothing we can do about it. There's no one doing it. We can just track to see where it went from there. Lastly, theft is huge. Theft of people's cryptocurrencies, not just by scams, but by giving away your private key or maybe your login address to a exchange you use. Maybe that's on Robinhood or Coinbase, etc. If you give up your password, you give your address, you give access to those things, they can just move your money because of the irreversibility of the transactions. It is gone. Before I start showing some numbers that we're seeing across the US and in Ramsey, I wanted to talk about crime reporting statistics. I looked at Pew Research for this, and the data comes directly from the Bureau of Justice and Statistics. When we look at property crime, and it might be a shocker to everyone, but not all citizens report crimes that happen to them, right? So when looking at motor vehicle crimes, for example, across the United States, it only showed that 80% were reported, so a large number, right? But still, there's a missing 20%. You look at burglary at 45 and theft at 25, so you're seeing the number get smaller and smaller. I think that when it comes to someone's car, they might be more worried about that, right? What was shocking was the burglaries, though, being 45%. You'd think people would report that. So when you break all the numbers down when it comes to property crimes in general, we see about 32% of all crimes are reported. So that means we're missing, a large majority, almost 70%, right? So when I show you these numbers here on this next slide, I just want you to remember that. When talking about U.S. crypto losses, this is something that was shocking to me, but we go back, crypto was still a pretty fringe topic. I would say it still is relatively. People don't know a ton about it still, but it's growing more and more in the mainstream. In 2020, we saw that only $700 million, which is still a large amount of money, was resulted in fraud, and that was taken from victims that reported. This is directly from the FBI. As we continue through the 2020s, you can see that chart continue to rise exponentially, right? Last year in 2024, we see $9.3 billion. So just in that 5-year time period, it's jumped up $9 billion almost, which is insane. And I think we're going to keep seeing that trend going up here. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the reporting data from 2025. Ramsey, I worked with an intel analyst at our police department, just tracking crypto fraud losses. As you see in 2019, it started at 90,000. There was only a couple cases there, just very large dollar amounts, which is also a big thing with crypto. You usually see high dollar amounts going back to the pig butchering scam type of ploy. But it dips down in 2020, and then as similar to the FBI reporting data across the U.S., we see it start to jump a lot, right? You see it at 7,000 there, and it jumps all the way up to 215,000 so far in 2025. As you know, we're not done yet in 2025. We're in November now. We still have another month after this. I expect that number to go up a little bit, hopefully not a ton. But when we look, since 2019, the Ramsey Police Department, we have had 52 reports made with losses. The thing that's troubling, again, is the dollar amount. It's almost $15,000 per victim. That's a large dollar amount compared to general theft or fraud. The thing I really wanted to talk about, too, and why I'm here today is crypto kiosks, or virtual kiosks, also known as crypto ATMs. We're seeing big fraud increases involving cryptocurrency ATM machines. You have a 20.6 times increase from 2020 to 2024. So in just that 5-year time span, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, took data. That's their data from the first 4 years there up to that $114 million mark. And then I took the other 246 from a agency from the government that reports financial crime there. They're saying about 246 million in 2024. When it comes to cryptocurrency ATMs, we see that over 70% of the victims are above the age of 60. The reason being, when using cryptocurrency, there's no reason to go to an ATM to purchase it. It's usually done on your phone, on your computer at home. The reason why people over 60 are being targeted is because their lack of knowledge, I would assume, with technology, not being able to set up some of these accounts on their phone or on their computer. As you can go to an ATM machine in a gas station and deposit money, I believe most of us can do that and then type in an address if we're being told this over our phone or over a text message. That's something that's being done. There's a little bit higher median dollar loss too across the U.S. with the ATM scams, and it's about $10,000 roughly. What are we seeing in Ramsey? The numbers, again, they don't show, I don't think they paint the full picture as a country, but just in Ramsey, we're seeing 19 cases in general of cryptocurrency fraud this year. Half of them are almost ATM related. We have 8 of them, roughly, that we know about, that we've gone out and looked and found at gas stations, at restaurants, things like that. I'd had the map on there just to show. I'd starred our senior living facilities in Ramsey, but all 4 of our senior living facilities are near a gas station that's walkable distance for anyone. So it's really just to show that these senior living facilities are very close, and that's who's being targeted in these crimes. When you go down to see what funds we've recovered almost $16,000 out of $26,000 roughly. That's nothing to do with us being special in any way. Minnesota passed a statute a year or 2 ago with ATM, the crypto ATM specifically. When it comes to the crypto ATM fraud, just to continue to show why it's not a good thing and why we don't need them, I would say 79% are linked to scam wallets. This comes from Chainalysis and TRM Labs. They're companies that assist law enforcement or other agencies with tracing cryptocurrency. They're often the ones we go to help find where the money went or where the coins went. Quick Trip, we had spoke with their head of their security. We had a meeting with them back in June. She was saying that 65% of the transactions she has personally reviewed are related to fraud. And then the state of Iowa, which is shocking, state of Iowa is reporting 98% of their crypto ATMs are linked to fraudulent activity, and that comes from an Iowa court case from a couple years ago. So what's Minnesota doing with the cryptocurrency kiosks? Well, they came out with a statute here, basically saying if you're a new customer, this time period lasts approximately 3 days, and in that 3-day period, you are considered a new customer. You can only deposit $2,000 per ATM. Now, this only covers the company. This limit goes up and up depending on you go to Bitcoin Depot or other kiosk companies. After that 72-hour period is up, then you're no longer considered a new customer. Well, if you find out that you've been scammed within that time, you have 14 days to report this to law enforcement or also to notify the operator like Bitcoin Depot or the other companies that operate them. This is all well and good. There's some issues with the statute, though, because these criminals are getting better. It's always a game of cat and mouse when it comes to law enforcement trying to catch criminals. They're oftentimes having people sign into a wallet that already exists. Well, that doesn't apply to the new customer period. It's already an existing wallet. Therefore, it's not covered under the statute, and we cannot get their funds back for them. Cities are also starting to do things. Stillwater recently passed an ordinance completely banning the kiosks in their city. Forest Lake has a similar ordinance. It's not a complete ban, but they're going to have these companies register. They have to do certain things in order to maintain their registration and their operation within the city. And I believe at some point, if there's violations, the kiosks will be removed from the city. There's other places like Hastings, Cottage Grove, and Woodbury that are discussing rules. And the city of Ramsey has talked about this as well. This presentation was given to the city council, and they have voted to ban them in Ramsey as well now. There is some pushback from cryptocurrency companies. Stillwater said that Bitcoin USA just sent a letter saying that they believe that this ordinance was not legal, although no legal challenge has been brought forth to them. California has been sued. They have a similar statute to Minnesota, but they restrict it to a $1,000 limit. But the courts upheld that it's a reasonable method for limiting fraud. Iowa had similar court case that happened. That's where that 98% number came from in the previous slide. But they had a $20 million lawsuit with Bitcoin Depot. But the courts ruled in favor of the operator in that case. They said that Bitcoin Depot was not responsible for the duress of the victim, and the victim had agreed to the terms of service when depositing and sending the money because there was certain things that the kiosk had said, warned her, etc. This was before Iowa, though, passed their statute. A lot of states are adopting these statutes for new customers. So, for example, I wanted to give a case. This is what happens sometimes. This is a real case I had. But we had a 67-year-old Ramsey resident came in. He had a computer pop up. This is very common with scams. But these people pretended to be Microsoft, and they look very good. They use the phishing emails. They just basically try to show that they're this company, but you have to really look at their email address and the things that are saying and the numbers they're calling from. But they had claimed he had illicit images of children on his computer, which I think would be alarming to anyone, and that would create a sense of urgency, which they often do in these crimes. But ultimately, he would end up sending $23,000 worth of crypto. In this specific case, it was Bitcoin out of his wallet with a brokerage called Uphold, and they sent it to the suspect's wallet. From there, the suspect got the money, and we're still investigating it at this point. The thing with a lot of these scenarios too, like I said with the pig butchering scams before, is that they will create this sense of urgency with people. They want you to act now. They don't want you to tell someone. But if this does happen to you in these cases, please just pause a moment, call your bank, call law enforcement, call a loved one, and just make sure that they think this is right and double check with them before this happens to you. There are challenges, like with anything in the police world. With cryptocurrency specifically, it's a tool used oftentimes by suspects. One of the big reasons is because it's anonymous. Like I said before, when talking about how blockchain works, it's just a series of numbers. My wallet, for example, let's say I have a wallet, it's just going to be marked by a series of numbers and letters, right? That's what belongs to me. How do you know it's my name, right? We don't until it gets sent to an exchange, like I said before, like Robinhood or Binance, something like that, where we can send legal order to that will have them send back what's called KYC data, also known as Know Your Customer data. But if it sits in what's called a cold wallet for a while, this is something that's not associated with a brokerage. It's just a wallet that exists as a part of the network, and it could sit there for an indefinite period of time. If someone loses their private key or their login, the money's gone or the coins are gone. You can't get to them ever. You're locked out of it. Another big reason why it's so popular is it's global. We can send cryptocurrency anywhere in the world at a moment's notice, which makes it extremely difficult for us in law enforcement because we're oftentimes handcuffed, I would say, if you want to use that term, to our local agency. I'm responsible for the city of Ramsey. What am I supposed to do about money that's gone to China, that's gone to India, overseas, right? There's ways to work with that a little bit, but it's going to be extremely difficult, and oftentimes these countries aren't going to extradite unless we can prove that they were involved in millions or hundreds of million dollars worth of fraud. Another thing that these suspects will do is they'll obfuscate their transactions. What do I mean by that? They have these mixer or tumbler wallets, it's called in the industry, but they'll basically have this wallet that'll people will just start sending money into. They're often associated, it's this wallet associated with crime, right? But they're taking in large amounts of cryptocurrency, pooling it together to make it hard to track, and then they're going to send it out to another wallet. And they're going to keep doing that. They're going to send it from wallet to wallet to wallet until it'll finally go to an exchange where we can get the KYC data, like I said before. But it's going to make it harder because they're starting to lump money together just like people would do in money laundering. And on top of that, oftentimes criminals are doing what's called chain hopping. All that means is they're jumping from Bitcoin, and they're going to use that Bitcoin, they're going to move it into Ethereum. And then from Ethereum, they're going to move it to another mixer wallet, and then they will put it in XRP, or maybe they will put it in Tether. So it's going to make it really hard to track the denominations that originally started out. Because like Bitcoin, it just starts as a series, I believe, of 8 to 9 digits, when we track that as it goes. But as you change from cryptocurrency to cryptocurrency, it makes it harder to follow. One of the big challenges, too, we also face is a delay in reporting. People often wait, especially with the ATM stuff, they'll wait outside of that 2-week period to report, and then there's nothing we can do with refunding. All we can try and do now is track the cryptocurrency. But oftentimes in the crypto world, stuff moves very fast. So the money's moving quick, and maybe it goes overseas, and now we can't find it anymore because it was cashed out. Maybe it's in a country that doesn't work with U.S. legal order. It makes it extremely difficult then to do anything about it, let alone get the money back. And then finally, there's a lack of resource and training in this field. It's a very niche field, I would say. Not a lot of agencies, at least small agencies, have a ton of resources, and this has to do with budget constraints, etc. There are counties, sheriff's offices, and federal agencies that will help us out in tracking, but they're also hindered with the amount and volume of reports they're getting. So there's only so much they can do with so little time. What was recommended to our city council is we wanted to enact an ordinance, which I talked about, which was passed. We're just trying to get through some of the logistics of it at this point. But one thing I wanted to say is it's not going to eliminate all of our crypto cases. Yes, it'll start to slow down those crypto ATM cases, but it's going to take a collective effort from everyone to start to ban these crypto ATMs. But that'll just stop that one method of getting money from people. You'll see that cryptocurrency in general, you'll still have the phishing emails. You'll still have the text messages saying, hey, open up a wallet, make an account. And people will figure it out, and they will still lose money. What I asked for our city council was having an investigator, a full-time investigator, potentially getting a tracing license with that company or those companies, Chain Analysis or TRM Labs, and that way we can handle it as it comes in right away, because time does matter in this field. It's about $15,000 for one of these annual licenses, and then around $1,000 for initial training, so it can get expensive. But when you look at the median value, the dollar loss, like I said in Ramsey with these cases, we're looking at about $15,000 per victim anyway. So I believe over time the money will pay for itself as we continue to see these numbers increase and increase. The other thing I asked for was further staffing at the police department. This could come as an investigator 2 investigators, maybe a analyst dedicated just to tracing cryptocurrency in general. I think we'll have to see more of an increase with cryptocurrency crimes in Ramsey, but maybe you see that for a larger agency like a sheriff's office or a metro police department. And this is what concludes my slideshow. This is what I asked them, was if they had any questions. If you guys have any questions, please call into your local police department or do some research online to be safe when doing that though. Be careful with links you click on. I have my email address on there. If people are curious, feel free to email me as well. Or like I said, try and call your local police department and get some answers. So again, my name's Derek. Thank you guys all for watching this.